And today we're very honored to have Steve Ives, the President and CEO of the YMCA of Greater Houston, and Amy Polak, owner of EntreResults, to help you with coping with COVID, working from home. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn this over. I won't give a big bio on our members, but the next slide we're going to show you is the quick agenda, which is just me with our opening of the event. Steve's going to go first, and we're going to have a Q&A. Just for your knowledge, at the very bottom of the screen, if you hover over the Q&A or the chat, you can actually type in your questions. Under the chat too, if you would like, you can type in your name, your company name, and an email address in case anyone else wants to connect with you. We'll also ask our panelists to write their information in there so that maybe you can connect with them after the event. And if you need copies of the slides from today's presentation, we'll be happy to share that with you. So again, make sure that you put your Q&A, your questions in, and your contact information in the chat. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Steve and Ives. Thanks, Steve, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me. It's also a joy to be part of this with Amy, who I got to meet yesterday. I thought what I'd do is start with telling a little bit about the story of what we've experienced through the YMCA, some of my personal experiences around that, and a lot more about what the Y is doing in terms of health and well-being through a whole virtual world. So next. What I'd like to just make sure folks understand is that our YMCA has been part of this community for more than 130 years. And over that time period, we have weathered a lot of storms, as you can imagine. We've seen a lot of change and a lot of dynamic situations happen in our city. And every time that has happened, our Y has become a little different as a result of it. So one of the joys for me, and I'm new to this area, but being part of this organization at this time, we got a lot of resilient folks who know what it is. They know what it means to have to pivot, have to change, have to shift. And so I'm learning a lot from our team around that. But a perspective that came upon me a couple of weeks into working from home was, this sense, this feeling of not quite knowing, being unsure of what the future will be, almost chronic stress, anxiety, uncertainty, fear about economic prosperity and the future, how that might be for me personally and for the organization I lead. And it just occurred to me that there's a whole lot of people in our community who live with that every day. And many of us, like myself, are getting this little window into what it might be like for people who live in severe poverty, who live in parts of our city or in communities or homes that aren't as safe as some of ours. So with that as a perspective, I wanted to just talk a little bit about, after 130 years of experience with this, what we experienced. These are our Ys the day after we shut down. That day was one of the most stressful days of my life because it started with thinking that we were going to probably restrict some activities and might be planning to potentially have to close. By the end of the day, we had closed all of our YMCAs and sent our staff home with a lot of uncertainty about what might happen. That immediately followed with furloughs for nearly 4,000 people, mostly part-time, but a couple of hundred full-time staff on our staff team, because the nature of the business of the YMCA is that 80% of our revenue, our income that helps us cover our expenses, comes from fees that we charge for membership, dues, and fees that we charge for school-age, after-school childcare. Those programs all stopped in one day without any certainty as to when they might come back on. So we went through the heartbreaking exercise of furloughing thousands of people and beginning to reorganize and think about how we might work going forward. Shortly followed by stay-at-home orders, which for me, I'll admit, incredibly challenging given that I'm a social person, an outgoing extrovert, and I just prefer to be around people. So I'm speaking to you as someone who, like many of you, I really miss hugging, giving high fives, shaking hands, and being part of a room of excited, ignited, and energized people who care deeply about making the community a better place. So we've been making those adjustments as an organization, but myself personally, like many of you as a professional, making those personal adjustments to how we do work. Next. The work that we've been doing at the YMCA, as you see in these pictures and you'll see in the next slide, requires membership. And so we immediately pivoted to an appeal to our members to say, stay with us. Stay with us, become part of the solutions that we're going to create. And as you'll see on this slide, those solutions, the work that we've been doing has changed from what you saw in the first slide of fitness centers to community-based responses. Those responses have included being part of a significant part of the food distribution system, standing up and starting new programs inside our Ys that once had fitness centers now have children as part of an effort to create full day experiences for school age kids who have parents or part of families where the parents are working in essential care. And I can tell you that as of this week, we're in 20 locations doing food service, doing distribution, and we're in 12 of our Ys providing essential care, child care for a full day program. Quite a pivot for our staff. Think of the adjustment. Some of these pictures you see, the woman with a mask, her job is not food distribution. Many of the folks doing this work are lifeguards, aquatics directors, fitness directors, maybe business office workers who have now entered into this whole new world of this wonderful feeling of being of service to people, but also the heartbreaking experience of having to see what folks are experiencing and how much desperation there is out there. So these staff members have really gone from being, important workers in a community to being right on the front lines with the most crucial and important work that needs to be done for our community. But we've also stood up a whole opportunity for ways that people can, without going into a facility, become part of wellness, physical activities, not just by themselves, but with others. About 6 months ago, our YMCA was a partner with several other YMCAs to develop a new solution called Y360. Next, the Y360 platform is a high-end platform using YMCA instructors curating a multitude of experiences around fitness and wellness and youth development and cooking and sports that is meant to provide an opportunity, was meant to provide an opportunity for us to have folks that weren't able to get into our buildings a way to have the Y come into their home. Little did we know we'd have an experience like this that would cause us to ramp up those efforts and launch it sooner than we were ready, but in a pretty remarkable way. Next. The next few slides, as we talk through, these are some of our local folks. So in addition to some of the classes being filmed in Wichita and in Washington State and in Charlotte, we had some of our own employees here locally curating classes. And all of those classes have been launched through our website. And this week we had more than 20,000 users who participated in those. And the multitude of comments that we're getting really is extraordinary. People are loving seeing people that they used to take classes with teaching classes. Our instructors are loving an opportunity to be connected with other people. And I think that's something for us to be considering through all of this also, is just how important those connections are. That sense of normalcy, if you will, in seeing the person you used to take classes with now teaching a class that you can participate in. Next. We also have curated a number of Zoom classes. And in addition to the pre-recorded, we have some live classes that are happening. Especially our seniors are enjoying being able to get on and be there with others while they take a class. Not quite the same as being in the building, but at least having that sense of connection with others that are doing the physical activity. We know that fitness, wellness, physical activity, caring for ourselves and our bodies is a critical and important way in which we process through these changes in our life and we prepare ourselves to handle stress and anxiety and the ways in which we have to adjust our lifestyle. Next. These classes, as you can see, aren't just about fitness and wellness. They're also about cooking. They're also about a story time. We've had some of our staff actually just get a book out and read it. We've done family activities so that our families who are trying to figure out what to do with their kids can get a little help and a little support around that. Again, in addition to the quality of the resource that it's there, they're seeing familiar faces who they're used to going into the Y and seeing and working with. Next. So we also know that we have to be intentional about being connected, as I was saying, with our vulnerable populations. On the left of this slide, you see some of our older adults. We've been holding regular Zoom connections for them, but we also have a number of our volunteers, about 50 of our board volunteers, who are making direct calls to seniors. They're asking them questions about how they're doing. They're letting them know that we're thinking of them. We're finding that that's a really powerful source of comfort for the people that are making the calls, as well as those who are receiving the calls. And on numerous occasions, there's a little thing that we might be able to do for them that's helping to ease the pain and make it a little more comfortable for them during this time when they're stuck in their homes. On the other side of the slide, you see some of our teens, another population that really needs, in my opinion, to have lots of positive interactions with caring adults. And so our youth team, our youth services team, still remains with us today and is putting a lot of time and effort into Zoom experiences for the teens. There's a dance that's going to happen, a shared dance virtual that'll be happening on Friday. And then there's a teen town hall that Lena Hidalgo, myself, and some others will be on a panel talking with these young people about what they're experiencing, what their needs are, and hopefully helping us to better understand what their wants, wishes, and needs are coming out of this experience of isolation. Next.
Hey, Steve, are these paid or free classes?
All free classes.
All free classes.
So, in the future, they may be for our members, but right now we're keeping them free for the community. We think it's really important that we be there broadly for the community as much as we can. So another way in which, for me, I'm staying as well and healthy is keeping future oriented. We had started a project prior to this closure to open a new center in the East End. It's a partnership with the city, rec department, and the YMCA with some funding we got from Rebuild Texas to renovate this pool at the Mason Park. So we will have an office there. We're actually in the middle of all of this, halfway through permitting, and expecting by June to be cutting a ribbon on this as a new initiative, a new project, a new presence for the YMCA teen and youth programming, and some upgrades to this pool amenities that will be part of all of that, made possible through a really unique partnership. And I know for myself, it's easy to get caught in the just dealing with today. The ability to look out to the future and know that some things we had in the works we're able to continue to keep moving forward and have available to the community has been helping me with my mental health, if you will, and my sense of vision and hope and aspiration for what the why and what the community will be going forward. So I mostly wanted to just share that little bit about the journey that we've been on and what we've experienced so far, my personal observations around what we're seeing from this and what we're learning from this, and how it might move our way of being going forward. I can tell you that we're right now deep in the midst of contemplating how we open back up, right? Because the story now is when and how things are going to get open, not if and how far in the future it might be. And so that's another really interesting and challenging piece for us emotionally, because we'd love to just swing the doors wide open and welcome everybody back in and have things be as they were. The reality is we know that they aren't going to be as they were. And the way in which we start up is going to have to be orchestrated and organized in a way that will most likely make some people unhappy because they're anxious to get back to their gym, back to their normal routines. But we as an association are going to have a strong sense of responsibility to make sure that we do it in a way that's safe and that does not contribute to causing another uptick and resurgence, if you will, of coronavirus infections. So with that, I will take some questions or respond if people want to hear more about something that I've shared or something that I've spoken to just sparks you and you want to respond to it, please do. I think we have about 10 minutes.
So I've got a couple of chat comments. One, to thank you for what you're doing. And I personally am excited about the partnership of bringing the Y back to the East End at Mason Park, and look forward to that ribbon cutting in June. But someone asked the kids classes, what are the age ranges, and do you have it? And I think you've answered this. Do you have to be a Y member to use the portal?
No, at this point, if you just go to ymcahouston.org and you can go to the virtual Y tab and you can find all of those. You also can find us on Facebook. So much of what I've described is happening for young people. It's happening through Facebook. That's a wonderful platform that's open to everybody. So there's no sign on or login at this point for any of those resources. Most of our youth stuff is for school age kids. However, we do have preschool folks, and we expect to be launching more activities and reading times for younger kids also.
And then also, someone just asked, is Camp Cullen canceled for this summer?
Camp Cullen is not canceled yet for this summer. And I say yet because there's so much to be known in the next few weeks. We're being told that the CDC will have guidelines for summer camp available to us by mid-May, at which point we'll be able to better plan for any adjustments in our operation that we'll be required to do with the guidelines of professionals on how to do it in a safe way. We will have, I anticipate, unless things happen in a very different way than what we're seeing right now, we'll have an opportunity to have a number of weeks of camp. A couple of things that are going to affect that. One, if we were going to open week 1, we would have had to start already, and we've had to delay all of that. So there will be an easing in to the weeks of camp. We also need to wait and see what the schools are planning to do around early opening, which may affect the end. But we will do as much as we possibly can using that resource. And I was talking to our camp staff the other day, who were worried about some of the amenities that we do, and how do we keep a ropes course clean, or how some of these other things that may cause the experience to be less or different. And my stance is, I don't think it's less if kids get to get outdoors and get to be in wide open spaces, especially given what we've all experienced after the last 4 to 6 weeks. So yes, we're doing everything we can to have Camp Cullen open for as much as we possibly can, for as many kids as we possibly can, and have not chosen to cancel Camp Cullen for the summer.
Great. One question is, are you still in need of volunteers for the Y? And if so, what is the process and where should they go?
Yeah. One of our challenges right now, especially with the food distribution, is that it's a tough job to manage people around the expectations and around social distancing. So we have not started to use volunteers to fill that. That will change over time. And so there are ways through our website also to request opportunities to volunteer, or if you send an email our way through the website ymcahouston.org, you'll be able to be linked with what those opportunities are. We have some gardens that I know my wife has been out trying to do the best she can, but she's one person. We got some gardens that are going to need to be tidied up once we're allowed to be out in the outdoors and outside of our homes more than we are right now. There will be a number of volunteer opportunities. So love to have volunteers. And I think that as the East End operation rolls out, as we open that and begin to do more and more with programming, there'll certainly be lots of opportunities for volunteers there also.
Great. And then another question. I thought it was very interesting, Friday's dance event. Any details on that? What time? Where can they find information about Friday's dance?
It should be on our website. If it isn't, let me know and I'll make sure it gets there. But we've been listing all of the activities that are available virtually through ymcahouston.org. And what I know is that music will be playing and people will be in their homes live streaming. Talk about, a parent's dream, getting your kids to go to a dance and have fun with their friends and be able to watch over every move that they make, right? So social distancing may have some other benefits for those of us who are parents of teenagers.
Great. And Talia put the website on there, ymcahouston.org. And then another person asked, Steve, are these programs in Spanish?
Many of them are. Yeah, we've been working hard and your team has been helpful. And we have our international services at the YMCA, which actually started in the 70s. Where we began being a significant part of the refugee resettlement program. And so we have folks on our team who can translate. So we've been working hard to get as many of those in both English and Spanish as possible.
Great. And then Veronica asked for a copy of the presentations, which we'll definitely email those to you, Veronica, when this is done. And then Steve, I know that you've got a lot of the Ys are closed. There's a lot of people that are working from home. When any other tips for mental balance and wellness for business people that are working from home?
Yeah, well, if you ever, I've often been told that when you're under the most stress is when you should do the most self-care. And so if you haven't and don't already have a rhythm of personal self-care, which could take the form of prayer, meditation, quieting the mind at some point during the day or several points during the day if necessary, this would be a good time to build that skill set and build that strength. I know that many leaders have, said, I think it was Martin Luther King who said that if I pray an hour a day, when things are really bad, I pray 2 hours a day. And I think we all need to heed that advice. Personally, I can tell you it isn't easy because there's so many phone calls and emails and the new thing binging on the computer. It's actually way harder than when you go into the office because the office is right there, just around the corner, drawing you in, and there is so much to be concerned about and so much that's unsettled. But we've got to do this for the long run. I've been talking with my staff about remembering that this is a marathon, and we might have sprinted the first 5 miles, but we got to get into a sustainable pace in order to be able to still be here and be strong and be capable and be impactful for the long run for our community. So I would say meditation, mindfulness, and find that way to exercise. You can do it through a virtual platform like I've described. I've got a little route that I do, just a 2-mile jog, but it's my clear the head jog, and I don't even have to think about where I'm going. It just, my body just knows what to do. That wasn't there at the beginning of this, it now is. So I would really encourage people around that. And you know, diet is probably the worst challenge for all of us. My refrigerator is way too close to me, and it's way too easy to, in between meetings, to run and grab a snack and and undo some of the habits that might have been created. So I would encourage you to just, again, mindfulness, being aware of what you're doing and making choices around that versus just being instinctual.
Those are great tips. I know I personally have been exercising more now that I'm working from home than I did when I wasn't working from home. And so those are really good tips. I'm trying to run 3 days a week, 30 minutes each time. And I feel so much better just by doing that. And I am also a proud member of the YMCA. I'm actually a proud board member of the YMCA. And one of my favorite classes is the spin classes. So I can't wait to get back to those. And I also work with a trainer there. And it's just so important, the older we're getting, to make sure that we keep our bones intact. And right now at home, I do have some weights, but for those who don't, I know there's creative ways to use books and water jugs as your weights at home. So I'm sure all those tips are on your website.
Actually, there was a exercise being done with paper plates the other day by one of our instructors. So lots of ingenuity and creativity. And if you are interested in personal training, we are now offering virtual personal training. And I think that's got some great promise for us going forward.
Great. Well, I think if there's no other questions, we're going to wrap this segment of the conversation and introduce you to Amy. But Steve, if you'd like to, on the chat area, if you want to type in more information about Friday or any other email addresses people can contact to either volunteer, etc., please feel free to do that. Don't go away because we may still have some more questions for you. But now it's my honor to introduce you to Amy Polak of EntreResults to also talk about working from home and wellness, body and mind. Thank you, Amy, for being here. And I think you're on mute. There you go.
Yes, there we go. Yes, thank you so much, Francis. I appreciate you thinking about me and having me here. We've been doing a lot of webinars on productivity from home and how to go about doing that. And thank you, Stephen, for sharing with us all about what the Y is doing. And it's just incredible to see what y'all have done and restructured and pivoted the whole organization to be able to continue to serve the community. So that is just awesome. I'd love to see all of those things. And so, yeah, next. So, yeah, so I've condensed, so this whole webinar that we've created, we pretty much created it the first week that we started hearing about all of this and how people were having to go home and get out of the office. And we were working overtime on putting this together because for us, we chose to have an office outside of our home because it was very challenging. It's difficult to stay productive from home because home is our comfort zone, right? It's our comfort area where we are able to sleep in late if we want to sleep in late on a Saturday or Sunday. There's not a whole lot of accountability at home, kind of self-accountability. And so we thought, how can we best serve our community as well by giving them great tips on how to continue to stay productive at home and keep that level of just accountability and focus they can continue to move forward in their business, they can continue to grow in their careers, and just, you know, how to do that. Next. So the first problem that we noticed was that there was this coronavirus mindset that came about. And my story with the coronavirus mindset happened in week 2, that we were having to stay at home, because that initially was the biggest hit with a lot of organizations, with people canceling, you know, memberships, people having to close down their entire offices and just try to figure out, like, wow, what are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? And same with us. We had a lot of our clients had to cancel their memberships with us, because they had to lay off a lot of their people on furlough, because, you know, just that whole trickle down effect of everything closes. Well, no one can come and take swimming lessons, for example. So, you know, things like that was what we were dealing with. And I was very fearful. I was very fearful. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how we were going to move forward with all of this. And I didn't want to reach out to anybody. I didn't want to reach out to any of my clients, because I was afraid that if I called them, I was going to hear, hey, we're going to have to cancel. And that was something that I did not want to hear at that time. But I knew that was the right activity. I knew that was the best thing to do, was to reach out and continue to see how other people were doing, regardless of the consequences to myself. And so one of the things that I thought about during that time was, well, there's not much that I can do right now except for what I can do. And so I started thinking through, well, what are those things that I can do? And so I want you to think about that just throughout this presentation, and even after, you know, this webinar is, well, what can I do? What can I do? That's a key phrase. What can I do? And another thing that I thought of during that time was also, I need to just take one day at a time and put one foot in front of the other and slowly walk through this. So depending on the pace that you like to have in your life, if you're someone that likes to move very quickly, you can probably get through this pretty quickly. But if you're someone that likes to think methodically about how you go about working through your day, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And so hopefully all of the information that I'm going to give you today will help shorten that process so that you can continue to move forward. And everybody processes information very differently. And there was someone I was talking to the other day that now is when they're starting to go through that, oh my gosh, how long is this going to last? How, you know, when am I going to be able to do other things? And so, you know, again, everyone processes things differently, but what can you do? What are we able to do? Next. And so, you know, when I was going to that fearful mindset, I was in a very fixed mindset. And some of us are there right now. You can either have a fixed and a fearful mindset where that says, nobody is buying right now. Nobody is doing anything right now. You know, we start thinking about these absolute phrases and puts us in a fear or a fixed mindset. So we need to get into a growth mindset. And I'm going to continue talking about that through this presentation. But you know, one thing to think about is, who are you talking to? Are you talking to someone who is negative, or are you talking to someone who's very positive, who's thinking through, well, how can I, you know, what can I do? How can I help other people? How can I protect my family? Or how can I help my family? Or what are some fun things that we can do? And so start thinking through, you know, who am I talking to? Are they positive or are they negative? And I want to encourage everyone on this call right now that you have the opportunity to grow right now, whether it's in your business, in your career, in your personal life, with your family, with relationships. You have the opportunity to grow. And so I want to encourage you with that and plant those seeds. Next. So the solution to this mindset is you have to start asking yourself the right questions. And here's a list of questions that you can start asking yourself. But what is the worst case realistic situation? What is the best case realistic situation? What is the most realistic situation? And it's important as you're going through this process to be logical and very practical with yourself as you're thinking through these different situations. And so basically what you're doing is you're creating different scenarios in each of the different situations to help you create a plan for moving forward. And so if the worst possible thing happened, you would know what to do and how to move forward. Same thing with the best and same thing with the most realistic situation. And it helps you to think through the process and what are the next best steps to take. Next. And so, you know, as you start asking yourself those questions, you begin to ask yourself growth questions. So a growth question, here are some examples are, how can you triple your business right now? How can you triple your career and your work opportunity right now? And you might be thinking, well, you know, I'm not really making anything right now. And so if you triple what you're not making right now, you'll still be making something, right? Whatever it is, you'll be doing something to create results in the future when all of this is over. And so here's another growth question. How can you increase your productivity by 10 times? What can you do? What can you do to advance? What can you do to advance in your career with work opportunities? What can you do to advance your business? You know, these are, as you start asking yourself these questions, you're going to start putting your brain in a growth mindset to help you to create plans to move forward. And then what value can you offer your current customers, your coworkers, or your direct reports? You know, again, going back to, well, there's not much I can do except for what I can do. And so what are those things that you can do? And you can absolutely add value to people right now. Next. So going in from asking the right questions, you go into the right activity. And so a lot of people have had some really bad days, but from this point forward, you are not allowed to have a bad day. You are allowed to have bad moments. And so how do you have that? How can you have a bad moment so it doesn't sabotage your entire day? You set a timer, very simple. You set a timer for, maybe you start off at 30 minutes. Maybe you start at 20 minutes or you go down from wherever you start. And so have a really bad 5-minute moment. When you have a really bad 5-minute moment, you're allowing your brain and your body to process this information, this news, whatever it is that you're receiving, the external stimulus, you're receiving that information and you're helping yourself process that information so you can move on. You don't want to stay stuck. And so when you allow your bad moments to sabotage and have your bad days, that's when you get stuck. And so in order to help you get unstuck, set your mind that you're going to set a timer so that you can move past once the timer goes off and you can continue to take the right activity to move forward. Eliminate negativity. What is negative that's going on around you that you need to put boundaries on and just say, you know what, right now is not a good time to allow this negativity in my life because it's going to continue to push you back and push you back. So you eliminate the negativity. What are you thankful for? And start creating a habit of a thankful mindset. Your nighttime and your morning routines. What do those look like right now? Have you changed your routine from where you were when we were working and we were going into the office? Or have you shifted and have a different routine? I want to encourage you to keep the same routines that you had when you were going into the office, when you were doing these other things. And so if you were exercising in the morning, do those things, right? If you were waking up at 4:45 in the morning to work out from 5 to 6, continue doing those things. Don't totally take those off your list. Physical activity, that's another right activity to do. Physical activity is key, and it is so important to get your blood pumping and get those endorphins going to help you to maintain that growth mindset. And so you're not stuck and you're not feeling sorry and feeling bad for yourself that, oh, I haven't done this and I haven't done this, right? We want to prevent those things from happening. Next. So this is the process that we take our clients through. And this is from going from a fearful mindset to an empowered mindset. And so initially, the very first part of this process is you're feeling fearful. And that fear leads to thoughts, negative feelings. Those negative thoughts and negative feelings, they lead to no good action. You take my example earlier when I said, I was feeling fearful. I didn't want to call anybody. I didn't want to do any of these things. If I would have rested in that, I wouldn't have taken any action whatsoever. But the next step is trigger moment. You have to create a trigger moment for yourself that takes you back to a time that you were struggling or that you were just how am I going to get through this right now? You know, take, for example, the flood that recently hit Houston. There was some tragedy that happened, but all of Houston got together to help people whose homes were flooded, right? Maybe you participated in some of those things, and we were able to get through that and move past that. And now Houston is so much stronger because of something that we went through. And so if you think through your own personal life, what difficult or challenging time did you go through that because you went through it, you are now a stronger individual? And so think about those things. So that's the trigger moment. And so that trigger moment is, okay, well, this is what I did. And man, I am a better person now because of that. And so now you can take action because you're feeling better, you're feeling good, and that action is going to continue to help you have those improved feelings. And that's what's going to get you to that feeling of empowerment. Some people go through this process a lot quicker than other people. And for some people, it takes time to go through this process. And so I want to encourage you to practice this when you're in fear or when you're feeling negative. Just start thinking about what you're thinking about and realize that you're not taking any good action, and go back and think through what is something that you have overcome and how did that make you feel? And then that's kind of the process that you can go through to have a more empowered mindset so that you can take action and you can move forward on things. Next. So here are some top tips to help you, but keep your normal routines. If you have gotten off your normal routine, go back to it. If you normally went to bed at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night because you woke up early to go and exercise, keep doing those things. The next tip is win the morning. I was talking to a client of mine the other day, and he was struggling with just keeping those routines and those habits. And I said, hey, you know what? If you are going to bed too late, if you have that extra glass of wine, and you know by drinking this one extra glass of wine, it's not going to help you to wake up in the morning the next day, you've lost. You've already lost because you're setting yourself up for failure. Are you setting yourself up for failure, or are you setting yourself up for success? And so think about the things that you need to do so you can set yourself up for success so that you can win the morning. Get dressed. Maybe it's not in your, your work clothes with your suit, tie, and jacket and everything, but some nice jeans and a nice blouse, and get dressed. Make sure you're eating the right foods, just like Stephen was saying earlier, and get some movement, exercise in your day. We're not really moving around a lot because we're in our home most of the time. So make sure you get some exercise, and then organize your workspace so that your brain can think clearly. And then figure out, have a plan ahead of time, pre-plan for what you're going to do with your children, what you're going to do with your pets. You might need a tag team. You might need to allow them to watch television right now, like my children are doing, just to be able to make it happen and get work done and add value to people. Next. And so, it's really challenging to do a lot of new things right away. And so an action step to this coronavirus mindset is to pick 3 of the tips that I gave you and just do it. Encourage yourself to make it happen and do it. And if you notice on the very bottom, I have text tips, or you can text home to that number 855-512-5152. You'll get weekly tips in your email for how to continue to stay productive during this time. And if you text home, we're offering a 1-hour coaching session for $47, and it comes with a communication assessment, and it comes with a business audit to kind of see how you're doing, where are you at, to help you kind of get refocused and re-engaged on how to go about doing all these things.
That's really good, Amy. And I highly recommend you, if you do need this, to call her and take advantage of that opportunity. We at the Chamber use her, and she's just fantastic. She's helped a lot of our members as well, and she can help you too. But one of the questions we have on here is, what recommendations if someone's spouse, family member is in a negative energy? How do you block that?
Well, I guess it just depends on who this person is. If they are like a spouse or someone that's really close to you, prayer. We come from a Christian worldview, and so we are always in prayer and always have just a spirit of gratitude. But pray that God would give you the wisdom to know how to respond to that person, to help give you strength. You know, if that person is in your own personal space, it is very challenging. And so I can understand where you're coming from. And so, you know, you have to give them grace and you have to stay in prayer to remain strong. Now, if it's someone who's a little bit more removed from you, like a sister or a brother who's married and lives in a different home, obviously you don't have to talk to them all the time. But if it's someone who's living inside your home, you know, pray for yourself and then pray with them. Ask them, hey, can I pray for you right now? What's going on in your life? And just get them to talk and help them to open up so they can get whatever it is that's inside of them out. And so you might have to walk them through this process. It's going to take some time, but help them to overcome some of that negativity, or maybe even ask them like, hey, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but you're kind of a little negative right now. You know, what's going on? Are you afraid? Are you upset? Did I make you angry? And be okay to be vulnerable, to hear what they're going to tell you, because, you know, it might be something about you too that you might not be aware of. So keep that in mind.
Thanks, Amy. That's beautiful advice. I have another question from Sam Pineda, who I'm glad you got in, Sam. So besides staying in touch, being positive and supportive, how do you stay in touch with new business?
Yeah, absolutely. With new business, you call them, pick up the phone, give them a call, find out how they're doing right now. How can you support them right now? People are still buying, believe it or not. And so when you can call and be sensitive to see how they're doing and know that it's not all about you, and truly, you know, dig deep and really identify, why am I calling them? Am I calling them simply as a sales call? Or do I truly want to call them to see how they are doing and how I can support them during this time? They may or may not want to buy, or they may or may not be ready to buy, but you can always at the very end say, hey, you know, I just want to let you know this is something that we're offering right now. If you're interested, great. If you're not, that's okay too. But I really just wanted to call and see how you were doing right now. And so, yes, absolutely. Keep calling those new business. Absolutely.
Great. And I wrote down something that you said, Amy. This is an opportunity to grow. And I personally have felt that as well. I've connected with friends that 20, maybe 25 years ago, we started working at the same advertising agency together many, many moons ago. And we had our first Zoom meeting, a happy hour. And it was so wonderful to reconnect with them. And the chats between us after the call, it's like, wow, I can't believe it took a pandemic for us to get back together again like that. So it was a wonderful opportunity. I mean, I'm reaching out to my family members more than I have in the past, because I always claimed at work I was so busy, I was doing this, I was doing that. And then even working from home, you're in a small area with I have no human children, just a dog and a husband. And it's great to spend quality time with them. So I thank you for that advice, and I do agree. And I hope everyone out there is taking advantage of this opportunity to grow with your family, with your friends, and with your business.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. And you mentioned something also. Another thing is what are you thankful for? To remember or remind yourself of what you're thankful for. And I personally, I'm thankful that I still have a job, and I'm thankful for the staff members that I have working with me. And I'm also thankful to live and work here in the East End. For those who didn't know, this morning at 10 a.m., me and a couple of other staff members, Diana and Thalia, were at Gulf Coast Distillery, who is now producing C42 hand sanitizer. And they donated a pallet to the USO military. Them and also Texas Mattress Maker, who are now making face masks. They've stopped production on mattresses and they're making face masks. They also donated 2,000 masks to the USO. And so it was two businesses here in the East End coming together to help give back. And so that was just very gratifying, and I'm very thankful for that. So I just wanted to share that with you and any other folks.
That's awesome. Yes, and one more quick tip is, if you're trying to implement a new habit, tie it with an existing habit. And so for an example, if you if you are wanting to become more thankful and start having a thankful mindset, maybe in the morning when you're brushing your teeth. I brush my teeth every morning, and and so it's during that time that you can tie another habit with that current habit. And so that would be a good time to be thankful and start saying your gratitude. What are you thankful for? And then at the end of the day, when you brush your teeth before you go to bed, you can start thinking through, well, what did I do today that I'm thankful for? And you start remembering all those things, and that will really help as well.
Mhm. And I've also heard that people are having trouble sleeping, and sleeping is very important for your diet, for your wellness, mind too. I don't know if you have any tips for that, but what I started doing is I bought a sleeping mask, and I started using that, and it truly has taken out all of the light that comes in. And it's taken me over a couple of months to notice how I'm sleeping much better and more calmer that way. Any other tips on sleeping?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so exercise for sure in the morning. I have to exercise in the morning. If I exercise in the evening, it wakes up my body. And so I like to exercise in the morning, and between 5:30 and 6:30 is usually when I work out. And then of course I go on through my whole day, and around 8:30 or 9 o'clock is when I start feeling tired. But I also have a nighttime routine. And so if you can create an evening routine for yourself that helps put your body in preparation to start going to bed, that will really help. iPhones or any kind of electronic device will help keep you awake, actually. And so limiting those types of devices and technology for right around your bedtime will also help you sleep better. And then just breathe. Just breathe throughout your day.
So true, so true. I didn't even know that they have classes for breathing, and I've got to start remembering to do that, because sometimes I'm walking upstairs and I forget to breathe, and it's so important.
Yes, I know. I discovered that last year. I'm like, I'm not breathing. What's wrong with me? And so now I have to make a cognizant effort to, throughout my day, just take really deep breaths throughout the day as you're sitting at your desk. Just breathe.
And so hopefully our listeners out there are taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, because it does the body good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any other questions coming in. I don't know if you have any. I was going to make some few announcements, but anything else you'd like to add, Amy?
So, if they want to get those free tips in their email of continue to have productivity, we also offering a 30-minute coaching call. And so if they just need someone to talk to help get them out of that funk so that they can help somebody else get out of that funk, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Great, thank you so much. And then I just wanted to let everybody know that the East End Chamber, we have a business resource page on our website to combat COVID-19, and there's information on loans, grants, and just other webinars like this that are out there. We are going to continue with our COVID-19 business webinars every Tuesday. So please make sure that you follow us on Facebook and on our website to find out who the next topic will be. Also, if you are on Facebook, we highly recommend you to, one, like the East End Chamber, but secondly, like the newly created Facebook group page that we started called East End Strong. It's a site where other restaurants and businesses that are open can share their opportunities for you to do business with them. Everybody is struggling. Our chamber is struggling too with membership, with everything, but we're not giving up, because out of this darkness is going to come great light, and we hope that we're all together in making the transition to this new normal. And then last but not least, wanted to let you know that if you have a business that needs advice, call us, let us know. Put your information on that Facebook Strong page on how we can support you as a business. And if you need anything else, please email me at francis@eecoc.org, or call the number, our website, 713-926-3305. Other than that, we thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.